Hello, friends. We're dry again. We came in from, guess
Dry-ish.
what? Another Carolina Panthers practice in the rain. We've had a bunch of those lately. I swear it's going to dry out in Charlotte. I promise you it is.
As soon as it does, and as soon as we're dried out, it's going to rain again. I'm still not dried out.
But you know what? We call this the happy half hour.
We
Training
are happy.
camp edition daily for a reason, because we're bringing the sunshine into your ear holes right now.
Don't use the word ear holes. That's
you hate
weird.
when I say that, but that's okay. No, it's a good thing. We got a lot to talk about today. Just a lot of news, honestly, and it lends itself to our item of the day, which as soon as I get my feng shui right, I'll put it back there on the shelf of fame. But that's a flip card from Friday night's game against the Browns, because this one has Austin Corbett in the first line at center.
Yes, it does.
And now the flip cards from here on out are going to remain that way, because Dave Canales announced during his press conference today that the veteran would, in fact, be the starting center. Based on experience, this was the likeliest outcome, just because Austin had kind of won that job going into training camp last year, had played well in the middle. It's such a fascinating career arc for me for Austin Corbett. He came here as a premium free agent in 22 as a guard after winning a Super Bowl with the Rams. They paid good money for him. Austin played really well in 22, tore his ACL in first half of the finale at New Orleans. And so that set him back. The following year, he came back. He got hurt again. And he didn't really have a chance to establish himself. And then last year, they go out and sign a bunch of guards in free agency, and Rob Hunt, Damian Lewis. And so Austin became a center for the first time in his life. And he always profiled as a guy who could play center because he is smart, he is athletic, he's a good communicator, he's an extremely good communicator. But they always thought center was a place he could flourish. Once he made that job his own, he looked pretty good in it, and then gets hurt again, tears his bicep last year. So there was a competition over the course of the season with Cade Mays, but I think realistically, just because of the difference in experience, Austin was always more likely to be the guy in that job.
Yeah, and Canales even talked about today, he was like, it was a really, really good competition. It was a close competition. Cade Mays is a really good offensive lineman, and he can play a lot of positions, especially on the inside. And but Canales said it was essentially just kind of Austin's leadership that really pulled him out over the edge. And, that makes sense. Cade, again, great offensive lineman. Corbett's been doing this a long time.
Yep.
He knows how to recognize defenses. He knows how to get a unit ready and keep them in line together. He's a huge comfort for Bryce as well. And, hey, now your backup center is a starting caliber center, and he's also someone that can play along the line. Canales said today, Cade's going to kind of be all over the line for us. He has a lot of guard experience. He has center experience. You have Cade Mays and Brady Christensen now that you can just plug and play, where you essentially have 7 offensive starting linemen. That's a pretty good position to be in.
And it almost runs deeper than that. I mean, because in the last couple of days, they have been a little dinged up. Damian Lewis is going to miss a little time with that shoulder. Rob Hunt didn't finish practice day. He got his ankle taped. We'll find out in the next couple of days how well Rob's able to bounce back, or when he'll be back on the field. But they finished today. We've talked all offseason about how deep and talented they are on the offensive line. They finished today's practice with Brandon Walton and Ja'Tari Carter, of course, at guard. I know those are 2 names that everybody out there in the listening audience knows about, but these are 2 guys who were on the practice squad all last year, and the staff has a lot of familiarity with. Walton has bounced around from Tampa to here last year with Joe Gilbert, with Harold Goodwin, so he's a known commodity. He's like their David Moore among the offensive linemen. He's a guy they've got trust in, a guy who knows what they're trying to do. And Carter, JT is just a big old physical boy. After the game the other night, I was talking to Icky about him, and he was like, listen, this man's a dog. He fits in here. And, Harold Goodwin's got a lot of background with finding guys like that and developing offensive linemen. Carter started a couple games in the past with the Bears, but he spent a year in this system, and a lot of people in the building kind of like what he's able to do. So you talk about Christian and Cade, and those guys are there, and that's great, but they've got a number of guys. That depth at offensive line ran into the practice squad from last year, and all those guys are back too, with one exception. So there's a lot of continuity in that group, and they're needing it all of a sudden.
Yash, Chandler Zavala, all guys that have that experience.
Yep. And speaking of Zavala, Canales said today he's hopeful.
Yeah, I set you up for that one.
That's right. I appreciate the assist. We work well together. We are a team, in fact. Zavala Canales said he's hoping to get him back on the field for the Pittsburgh week to get him back in the game for the preseason finale. But, still a little bit up in the air, so to speak. But that's where that depth comes into play because you've got a number of options of guys you can plug in there and feel pretty good about. And they felt good about Carter the other night. I mean, Canales talked about him. It's one of those other than the sack situations. Other than the sack he gave up and, starting for the first time with this bunch of people, he played pretty well. I mean, he is a low-cut, stout guy. I mean, he's another wide body kind of in the frame of Damian Lewis that lends himself to the style of play they want to play.
And then I may be jumping ahead on you here. I know you got your list there.
This is a well-planned-out podcast, Cassidy. It's all right here in the notes.
I'm jumping ahead.
We're not just winging this. What do you think's happening here?
He did. We wing most things, so it's a fair assumption. He did also talk about JC, and he wasn't back. Right. He was out there coaching today, not playing. He said he was told it's one of those things where if they had a game, he could go.
Right.
But obviously, you just don't want to test it. Something. It's so easy to go, oh, it's just a couple of stitches in the hand. What's a big deal? But you have to remember, too, and this is across the board, but especially JC. JC wears gloves when he plays. You get out there in a day like today where it's muggy and then it rains and you've got gloves on top of your stitches. That can get infected.
Yeah.
And you don't want that to happen because then you have a whole other host of problems.
Well, and especially when you're a corner like JC. JC loves putting hands on people.
Right.
And as physical as he is, he gets a jam on somebody. He pops that thing.
Yeah.
And it was a little cut from the airbag from the accident he was in last Wednesday morning. And, you don't want that thing to open up. You don't want that thing to, as you mentioned, I mean, infection is a real thing here in the NFL, and they're trying to avoid that. But there's a number of those guys that they're trying to figure out how to get back, how to work back in.
Renfro was back out there today.
Who?
Renfro.
Yep, Hunter Renfro was back on the field. That was on my list somewhere in these voluminous notes. Hunter was back on the field after missing a couple days. Derrick Brown was working more than he'd worked, during the Browns joint practices. They're kind of working him back too. I mean, he had that rib oblique thing. I love the way Canales described it last week. It's like when Derrick starts throwing people around, because throwing human beings around is the thing that Derrick Brown does. But you could tell when he was back out there on the field today, I mean, there was that different energy. When they're doing run drills and stuff, having a Derrick Brown out there makes a big difference on a defensive line, it appears.
I asked Pat Jones about that, too. I said, can you, when can you tell the difference? And he said you can tell the difference the moment he steps on the field, even before the snap. He was just saying that, it immediately raises the play of everyone else out there. And Canales has talked about that as well, that, you guys see DB doing stuff and DB going hard and not ever taking a play off. They're going to do the same. But it was interesting to hear it from a guy that's out there on the line of scrimmage with him, too. He said he said the energy is completely different if Derrick Brown is out there.
Yeah, as it turns out, having one of your best players on the field is a good thing.
Yeah, and it makes a world of difference in the run defense. We saw that today.
Yeah, and we caught a little bit of that the other night. We do need to circle back. It occurs to me we haven't visited with you fine people since last Friday night's game against the Browns.
Yeah, Matt, where you been?
Come on, Matt. I mean, taking weekends and soccer and stuff. I mean, come on.
Getting ready.
At any rate, Browns leave here with a 30-10 win in the preseason, but it's a preseason game, so the final score of the game, who cares?
It's like, whose line is it anyway? The rules are made up. The points don't matter.
That's right. I just think the things I took out of that game were, A, Bryce Young and the first offense did what they needed to do. They got out there. They scored a touchdown. Good long drive, made a few plays, spread the ball around. Got it to T-Mac early on. He kind of played go fetch down the sideline, and guess what? The rookie went and got it because that's what he's been doing all summer.
That's one of those throws, too, that's really kind of like a trust throw. It's one of those Kyler Murray used to say it about D-Hop, oh, F it, D-Hop's down there somewhere. And that takes a lot of time to establish usually. And Bryce said on Friday, we haven't really needed the time because he's proven he can do it. Mm-hmm. And I know sometimes it's easy to look at practice and look at the one-on-one I think he had today or the other day. He won his one-on-one today versus Thornton. But see some of the drops and things like that when he's going up against Mike Jack, when he's going up against JC and go, oh, what's going on? or to see the non-touchdown. It wasn't even a drop, but the non-touchdown he had on Friday, I think that was just not realizing how quick Bryce's anticipation was.
Mm-hmm.
But those are also things that come a lot with timing the farther you get into the NFL. When it comes to pure athleticism and proving he can go up over a DB and make a play, he's going to do it.
Yeah.
He's done it more often than not in camp, and Bryce showed that and rewarded that trust with that throw. And also, that's a lot of trust from Brad Idzik who was calling plays. That's a lot of trust from your play caller to go, hey, rookie, this is your first. And I know it's a preseason game, but hey, rookie, this is your first time in your uniform in this stadium with a bunch of fans watching you, other than FanFest, but that was a scrimmage. Go run 30 yards down the sideline and get this ball. Yep. And he did it.
He did. On the other side of the ball, again, not a very long look at the starters, and Derrick Brown and JC did not play Friday night. It was Friday night, right? Or was it Saturday?
It was Friday night into Saturday.
It was Friday night into Saturday before we got out of here, because we do it for the people. Mm-hmm. And the first defense, not out there for a long time, but for all the talk about Shedeur Sanders and how good he looked, he didn't put anything on the board against that first defense, didn't score against those guys. The first touchdown he scored was a whopping 10-yard drive. So
that was an impressive throw, though.
Yeah, it was a nice throw, but I beg people to contextualize the preseason. First defense, for the parts of it that were out there, did what they needed to do. They got off field without any points scored, so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like in a little bit longer go this week in Houston. Canales has said he'd probably send those guys out there for maybe 3 series instead of the 2, but the guy the other night during that game, you know what I'm about to say. The guy in that game was Nick Scorton.
I was wondering if you were going to go Nick or Jalen Coker.
Nick Scorton, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we've seen Jalen Coker do things in games before. This was kind of our first chance at the Nick Scorton experience. He goes hard, gang. He goes hard. My man put 74 yards on the field on one play.
He ran farther on that play than anybody else did on the field. And I'm sure Nick would tell you, well, if I ran a yard less than Shedeur, I'd probably sack him a lot sooner. But he stayed with it, and it ended up being a loss of a yard.
Yeah.
It was like a 3rd and 13, and he's chased him out of bounds. He missed the initial sack. Canales kind of called that a little bit of the Shedeur magic, which we saw him do at Colorado. Well, those of us that watch college football saw him do at Colorado. He pulled a little Shedeur magic a couple of times to get out of an initial sack from Nick, to get out of a sack from Bobby Brown. But then Nick Scorton booked it across the field. He hit 17.5 miles an hour, faster than anybody else on the field that play, to make sure that he got Shedeur out of bounds for an out-of-bounds sack. And
I'm not sure I could go 17 miles an hour on my bicycle.
Let's try it.
Unless I was going down an extreme hill.
Right, let's test you.
Always wear your helmet.
If you're going 17 miles an hour,
don't try this at home.
If you're going 17 miles an hour, something's wrong.
Probably so. Something's chasing me.
And
it might be Nick Scorton.
I've cracked this bone before going down a hill on a bike too fast.
Were you wearing a helmet?
No.
Don't watch videos while you drive. Always wear your helmet when you're on your bicycle, kids. Don't do like this one. Try to be safe out there. We value you here as a family. You can still see the
scar at times.
At any rate, we were talking about
Nick Scorton. Yes, that is exactly why they drafted him. And I know, again, it's easy to look at it and go, well, he missed the sack there. Or why didn't he get another, tackle sack or things like that? He made the play, and that's what you can ask for a lot of times. That position also, and I know we've said this, but I'm going to say it again because it bears repeating. And Nick talked about this on Friday night, if you go read the story on him on Panthers.com.
And you have already, trust me.
Is that's the position more than anywhere else. You feel the difference in speed from the college to the NFL level. It's that pass rusher position. And even though the Browns weren't playing their starters, it's still just faster. Everything's faster. The game is faster. The snap is faster. The throw is faster. Everything is quicker. And you feel it most at that position. And he talked about definitely feeling the difference in speed. And also just realizing how much coaches will confuse you with looks, and remembering at this one they confused me, but this one I already had studied on tape. Now I know even more, go study even more and be ready, and that can make up for some of the difference in time.
No doubt. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, as we get into this thing, Houston's got kind of a new look offensive line down there. They've made a lot of changes this offseason, so this is going to be another good opportunity. I think in real terms, and not to denigrate anybody else, but Houston's a little bit better roster than Cleveland's got going on, so it's going to be a little bit better test in a lot of spots. I mean, Houston's, again, changed a lot of pieces over the offseason, but still a really good roster with a lot of really good players. I'm guessing we may end up talking Bryce Young, C.J. Stroud at some point this week, just a hunch.
Pull up the old video.
Call me crazy, but we'll get them to break out some new basketball comps for each other, which we had so much fun with previously.
We should make them play one-on-one.
Yeah. So here's what we got going on. We'll come back, one more practice tomorrow. We've got a shorter day on Tuesday. They kind of recover a little bit, usually after a fully pads day, knowing what's coming. Travel Wednesday. Thursday, in honor of the joint practice in Houston, you and I are going to find a spot somewhere deep in the heart of Texas.
I think it's 2 claps. The stars shine bright in the sky tonight.
Stars at night are big and bright.
Oh, yeah.
Da, 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 da,
oh, it is 3.
Heart of Texas. Have you never seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure?
No, but I know the song.
One of these days, I'll take you to the basement at the Alamo. At any rate, we're not going to San Antonio. We're going to Houston. We will bring the happy half hour to you from Houston. We'll bring it to you tomorrow from Charlotte, assuming we haven't mildewed to death. But
Do you want to mention what we're running all month that started this week?
Oh, what? Yeah, thank you. That was not the thing that was on my list, but I'm glad you pointed that out. You may have noticed, if you're a loyal consumer of Carolina Panther or Panthers.com, and I know you all are, we wrote a big old story about the 2015 training camp yesterday, which leads into a month of content. We've got video stuff coming out. We've got a video look at that training camp, and it includes a lot of cool stuff. I don't know what you may have seen elsewhere, but if you want to see Cam Newton and Josh Norman fight on video and you want to hear what Cam Newton said about that after the fact, we got you covered. A lot of cool stuff coming. We got a video docu-series breaking down that entire season. We've got roundtables with former players from the 15 team.
Some really cool cart talks.
And we've got Cart Talk with J.J. Jansen, sponsored by Bojangles. We got a Luke Kuechly episode. And you know what the answer to this problem is?
It always needs more Luke Kuechly.
Everything needs more Luke Kuechly. There's nothing that won't fix. But, yeah, a lot of cool stuff coming up. So keep it locked on Panthers.com the rest of the month. Keep it locked on the YouTube channel because all kind of neat stuff coming your way. And speaking of neat stuff coming your way, every now and then, if you guys watch this podcast on video, you'll see a dark and mysterious figure stick his head into our screen. That's David Langton, and I'm not sure what DL's exact title is. I just call him Honcho. He is the grand poobah of this here fine studio. Honcho. And DL and the boys have cooked up something that fans can enjoy during the game day experience at Bank of America Stadium. They call it an ultra-low latency stream, which is fancy for real-time radio in your ear holes as long as you're sitting right here in this building. It was a success the other night. Over 3,000 people tuned in,
that's cool.
And we're listening live. It used to be when you listened in on the app, and of course you people all have the Panthers app on your telephone screens. If you listen live on the app in the past, there was a delay, and it's kind of as cool as it is listening to Jake and Luke and all the boys on the Panthers radio network. When they're play behind what you're hearing, it's a little bit distracting. Yeah. Now it's real time. So the next time when you're here for the Pittsburgh game in a couple weeks, make sure to stream it live on the Panthers app. You can listen to it in real time. Join all the cool kids who are listening to the game that way and just adding a layer to the experience. So for the low latency stream, for starting center Austin Corbett, for deep in the heart of Texas, where we'll be in a couple of days. That'll take care of.
Did we mention XL apologized today?
Yeah, XL apologized. He did it again. He apologized in real life after tweeting out an apology. So that one was a lot more sincere. You can read about that on Panthers.com. So until then, we'll see y'all next time on the Happy Half Hour.